All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are Bitachon Blast number 12, All for the Best. It's a great title. I mean, if you're going to have 75 chapters and essays about Bitachon, you're definitely going to have one called All for the Best. And probably that is one of the most important phrases for Bitachon, All for the Best. So the Chosovos says, when things go wrong, the Boteach Hashem is not overly stressed. Those words in itself should not be taken as a judgment towards anyone. And I'll tell you a story about that when we're done. So if it looks like he is about to lose money, he is not upset. If he has a small ailment, he does not have too much pain because he knows that the Creator, may be blessed, cares about his needs more than he can ever humanly care for himself. So Rasher says, only the Kadosh Baruch Hu sees the big picture. Man has a myopic view and his pain from a small view. However, once a person's a Maimon, they believe and they know what Hashem knows what's best, he's relieved. This is an elementary point that as soon as a person accepts it, he will never have any more tsar, anguish, because he recognizes that whatever happens is coming from Hashem for a reason. Baal Bitachon is never upset. Say he lost money, got hurt, shidduch didn't work out. He knows that Hashem sees the big picture, and that's what's best for him. You thought it was good for you, but the Kadosh Baruch Hu knows better. And that's what Bitachon is. We often say that Nachum Ish Gamzu was called the man of Gamzu. Some people say that was the city he was from, but other people say, the Gemara says in Tainus, that he would say Koma, that whatever Hashem did, Gamzu Latova, everything that happened was for the best. So what's Gam? The word Gam is strange. You should just say something bad happened. He lost money. Zulatova, this is for the best. He stubbed his toe. Zulatova, what's Gam? So Gam shows a confidence that just like I got over this, or just like this thing in the past was all for the best, so too I know with that same confidence that this is for the best. Like, for example, let's say you have a criminal attorney who goes to court and you say to him, hey, are we going to win this case? Like, because I really don't want to go to jail. And he says, well, I've never done this before. So you probably are not going to be very boteach in that. Forget about spiritual bitachon. But if he says, hey, I've been doing this for 30 years and I've defended people a lot worse than you and I always win, then you're going to have a lot of bitachon. So that's the word gam. When you look at God, it's not Hashem's first rodeo, so to speak. It's not his first time helping us. He knows the forefathers couldn't have children, and people had sorrows, and people had challenges, and it doesn't mean that we necessarily understand why Hashem puts people through things, but it's an understanding that gam zulatova, whatever happens to us, it's also for the best, even though now I don't see it, but just like past things, I can now see with that perspective. So in the present, I can live with Gam Zulatova. That's the confidence, and that's one very important shot. Nachum Ish Gamzu was Rabbi Kiva's Rebbe. Many of my Talmidim are in the parsha of dating without knowing Chovos HaLevavos and practicing its lessons. There is much heartache to be suffered. This applies to all disappointments in life. Say a shidduch job, new client, or other opportunity fell through. You may begin to feel sad and upset. However, says Rav Asher, recognize that Hashem knows what's best for you, and that's why he made this happen. Do you want that specific shidduch, or do you want what's best for you? Say thank you to Hashem for the fact that he took care of you. This is the depth of Gam Zulatova. Everything is for the best. It means that Hashem knows what's best for us and facilitates the experiences in life that will be best suited to our individual needs. Tainus 21a, like I mentioned. There's a story from Victor Miller that he brings down that there was once a millionaire who was an observant Jew who made clothing at his factory and worked around the clock at his job. He was very, very busy. His business operated all week long, with him opening the door in the morning, davening shachris for a few quick minutes, and arriving home late and tired each day with his Mincha and Marav were almost absent. On Shabbos, he would sleep to catch up on the deficit. That's having little time to daven or learn, period. He had to recharge so he could do it all again next week. This went on for years. He was an honest man in business, but he had no time for Torah, davening, and mitzvos. One day, he made a large investment in merchandise materials that he needed. He had invested his entire fortune in order to acquire the raw materials, knowing that this investment would make him rich. Realizing the risks associated and having all of his money tied up in the investment, he took out a large insurance policy on his entire warehouse. Shortly thereafter, a smoke fire occurred and ripped through the store, damaging all of his materials and rendering them unusable. He had been planning to make millions in revenue, but now the Kadosh Baruch Hu had other plans for him. He went to his insurance agency and filed a claim for $2 million to cover the damage. They responded that only flame damage is covered, but smoke damage is not included in the policy. He contacted a lawyer who advised them that he was now bankrupt. He could try to fight the insurance agency, but it would take years of expenses and frustration, would likely not lead to the desired outcome. He had a small pension fund to live off of, simply, but he basically had nothing else. He declared bankruptcy. His creditors took all of his building machines and seizable assets. He had nothing to do, and so being accustomed to getting up early, he went to daven shachris and shul. He stayed for his shir after davening. He learned Mishnayos and halacha. He came back from Mincha and Marav and began to learn Gemara. He enjoyed learning and started to advance in his studies. He was davening and learning like a yid and reconnected with his roots. He was calm and enjoying his newfound occupation. His entire life had changed. It was true that he was not going to be going on expensive vacations as he did in the past, but he enjoyed learning, interacting with others, and getting along better with his wife, as he was now more patient and less tense at home. This continued for 1 year, and on the anniversary of the smoke fire, he invited his friends and made a Sudas Hodah to celebrate. He recited Nishmas and said, "Thank you, Hashem, for having Rahmanas, having pity on me, for shutting down my factory, and for allowing me to discover Torah and Tefillah and to get along with others with Shalom. We must look at everything that seems bad to us with the same perspective. Hashem knows what's best for us." There was a rich man who made out large checks to institutions, and says Rav Asher, "I tried unsuccessfully to get his support for my call. I was just never able to meet up with him. He was recently found out to be a fraud, and the paper featured the names of all the people and institutions whom he supported, and there was a big embarrassment regarding all those who interacted with him. Baruch Hashem, I was saved from this. At the time that I failed to get funds for him, I knew in my heart, but Hashem knows what's best. Hashem knows that we only accept kosher money, and he also spared us negative publicity." So that is the 12th chapter. There's a lot to say on this idea of Gamzu Latova, but I want to share one quick thing. The founder of Bonei Olam is Shlomo Bochner, and his wife, I forgot her name, and he is the child of Holocaust survivors. I'm not sure if his father's still alive, but anyway, he tells over a lot of stories. So him and his wife had fertility issues for, I believe, 23 years. They couldn't have children. It's funny because he doesn't really publicize the end of the story, I think out of sensitivity for the people, for the 8,700 couples that he's helped have children. And unfortunately, the thousands more of it, just were not able to have children. But anyway, so he tells over a lot of very interesting stories, but I do believe that him and his wife did end up having children, although he doesn't seem to publicize it or talk about it very much, I guess out of sensitivity, or he's Hasidish, so a lot of things are very, just more tznius. But anyway, so when him and his wife, it sounds like after 23 years they did have success, whatever it is, they stopped their journey for whatever reason. And he tells over in an interview that I saw from him that he told his wife, "Okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm never dealing with this ever again. Like, I just don't want to have anything to do with it." And his wife said, "What do you mean? We have to help other people." Her name is Chani. And so he said, I cannot deal with another alcohol swab, another problem, nothing. And she said, "What are you talking about? Like, Hashem put us through all this so we can help people." And he's literally, he said she was right. And he literally has, his organization, like I said, they are responsible for helping 8,700 children to date, which is approximately it's an amazing thing what they do. And one thing that he said, which was a very interesting story, is that, in the height of his struggles, his father tried to give him chizuk. And his father said to him one day when he was very down, he said, "Look, our job is to have bitachon. I was in the camps." He said there was a gun put on my head many times. I was pushed against the wall, and I thought it was over, but the Ribono Shalom took care. And he says over in the story that did not help him very much. He did not like what his father told him, which is an interesting story in itself. But he said back to him, he said, "The difference between you and me is that when you were in the going through the Holocaust and you were there with everybody else. Everybody was in the same boat." He said, "When I go outside, we're one of the few couples that don't have children." And so him and his father had a fallout, but then eventually they made up, he said. The point is that, we can't have bitachon on other people's cheshbon. He said that he did apologize to his father for being strong, and his father sort of said, "Don't worry, I know what you're talking about, and I forgave you." And, he didn't apologize for what he said, which means that he probably held that, that was his mussar that he was giving his son, which is between them two. But the point is that it's not our responsibility to have bitachon on other people's parts, but there is something that's very important for us to be careful about having bitachon with other people. But, like I always say, when you're, there's a line from, I believe it's FDR, that says, when your neighbor loses his job, it's called a recession, and when you lose your job, it's called depression. So, it's very easy for people to say, "Oh, that person doesn't have bitachon," or what's this person doing wrong? But our main objective is that we need to look at ourselves and make sure that we have bitachon and the things that we need to have bitachon for, with as much that we can. When we say Gamzu Latova, we say, "Hashem, you're running the show, you know what you're doing, and you've done this successfully before." But we have to be sensitive and careful to other people. But one of the great things that we should do in any experience, whatever we go through in our lives, is to recognize that Hashem is teaching us something. Hashem is not necessarily teaching us that we're bad people. Like Shlomo, I was very, very taken by his interview because he talked about, a very, very common thing that a lot of people report. I've dealt with couples that deal with infertility issues as well. He basically said like he would barter with Hashem. He would say like, okay, fine. So we thought we were gonna have 15 kids, but like just give us 2, and okay, just give us 1. And Hashem would say no. And there's a lot of anger that a person has. Does that mean that you lack bitachon? No. There's a madrega of Abateach Hashem Chesed Yisov Venu. Probably the most popular question that I get from people, and that's why I'm addressing this now, is like, okay, so what does bitachon mean? It means that you don't feel anything? No. A person has thoughts, feelings, and emotions. When Sarah Imenu died, Avram said, it hurt. So that's really important, that we have to understand that bitachon does not negate feelings and emotions. But what bitachon does is that it's like that guy who's up on trial, and his lawyer says to him, I know you did a horrible crime, but I've represented people a lot worse and I always win. So it's to know that you have Hashem in your corner. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Hashem is going to give in to everything you say. Meaning in that story, the lawyer is telling him, don't worry, I'll get you off the hook. And, but in Hashem's story, Hashem says, don't worry, I'll get the best outcome, whatever's best for you. And that's a really, really important thing we have to recognize in life, that Hashem always has what's best for us in mind. But when it comes to other people, like the Baal Shem Tov said that there's a time for every Avera has its place. So the Avera of lack of bitachon has to do with other people. When it comes to other people, you shouldn't have bitachon on their part. It doesn't mean you're not supposed to inspire others, but it means that on your part, you're supposed to validate them and make sure that you're giving them the sympathy that they need and deserve. So we should be zocha to use the skills of bitachon and to be able to say Gam Zulotova, things that happen. We should look at Hashem with a confidence that we know that He's taken us this far and He's given us success in life, and now we're going to continue forward knowing with that confidence that Hashem knows what's best, and that's what Hashem is going to bring out to us. Have a great week.